there's a lot of confusion out there as which is the correct way. And the answer is there's no correct way. It's situational. So let me explain. So the question isn't actually which technique is correct or incorrect. The better question to ask is which technique fits better in a certain situation. So there's very few absolutes in pickleball, and dinking is no different. So today I'm gonna walk you through all the different terms, techniques, and different ways to approach our dinking. And hopefully by the end of this video, you're gonna have a clear plan on how all of this fits into your game. I wanna take a quick second and give a big thanks to the sponsor of this video, which is MANTA sleep masks. For me, sleep is really important, especially when I'm on the road, traveling, playing tournaments. Recently, I've been using these MANTA sleep masks, which are awesome. Really high quality, super lightweight. This one even has a feature where it has built-in like white noise or music that you can play through it, so you don't hear those little background noises. But this has been huge for ensuring that I'm getting great sleep no matter what the conditions. So if you're interested in checking these out, check the description below. You'll see a link to MANTA's website, and you can learn more about these. First, we're gonna talk about the slice dink. So I'm just using this name. There's not a great common name for it, but the slice dink is where you commonly see the hand and the paddle level with each other, and you're gonna see an open paddle face, okay? And this dink is usually gonna be tied to creating some underspin. So when you see this position, usually that ball is gonna be a slice or underspin dink. On the contrary, we have what's referred to as a tip down dink. So this is where the tip of the paddle goes below the hand. Usually with this dink, you're gonna get maybe a flatter ball, or maybe if you know how to do it, you can get some topspin on this. Typically this tip down dink isn't gonna produce any underspin. Now the thing that we really have to understand here from a technique perspective is both of these dinks work similar as far as physics and technique and how we're getting the ball over the net, but it's gonna feel a little different. One key element that has to exist is we have to have an open paddle face when you're dinking, because we're taking a ball that's low and we need that ball to quickly get up and over the net. So we gotta have usually at least a slightly open paddle face. Now, when I'm in this kind of slice dink position, if I use my wrist to roll the paddle open, that's gonna create that open face and help me get the ball over the net. One thing I wanna note here is make sure we're keeping a nice level swing. I see a lot of people trying to over create the spin, and so we're doing a lot of this kind of stuff. If I have an open paddle face and take a level swing, that paddle is gonna do all the work for me and kind of bump that ball up and over the net. Now, on the contrary, on a tip down dink, if my arm and paddle and everything is in kind of in a straight line, what gets me this open face is having this ball out in front of me, okay? So you can see if I'm hitting like this, my paddle face is naturally open. If it gets too far behind me, then that paddle face closes, and now we've got to manipulate the wrist too much, okay? So whether it's like this or like this, in both situations, we're creating an open paddle face, and that's gonna be the constant. Hey guys, so I really appreciate you checking out the video. If you could do me a massive favor and please subscribe to the channel. It helps the algorithm, it helps me reach a wider audience, and in turn, that's gonna help me bring more great content to you guys. Okay, so here's the key part to all of this. So when I'm teaching my lessons, the question I get all the time is, which is the right way to do it? I've seen videos that tell me to dink tip down. I've seen videos that tell me to keep my wrist up when I'm dinking. You know, so there's a lot of confusion out there as which is the correct way. And the answer is there's no correct way, it's situational. So let me explain. If the ball is coming and it's within the lines of my feet, so it's kind of coming right at my body, you can see it's very natural for me to lay the paddle out in front of me and naturally let that paddle tip go down. So if I'm hitting here on a backhand, anything that's kind of within the frame of my body, a tip down dink is gonna feel very natural. So you can see as I reach out though, so if that ball's moving farther away, that paddle naturally wants to move up to the side of my hand. I'm not forcing this, but it's just naturally moving out there. And as I do that, then I open the face a little bit. So the basic idea is that a ball that comes at you more or less, we're gonna use more of that tip down style. If you're having to reach outside your body lines, then that paddle's naturally gonna move to the side of your hand rather than being below your hand. And now we're gonna use more of that slice dink style. So where I see people run into problems with this is, they read a tip about dinking tip down, or, a coach tells them to keep the wrist up. And now we're trying to do that in all situations. And it's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. So if a ball's coming right at my body and I'm trying to dink it like this because I'm trying to keep my paddle level with my hand and open the face, that looks and feels very awkward. That's not gonna be a very natural dink. It's gonna be very tense, and I'm most likely gonna pop the ball up. Or if I'm reaching out to the side of my body and I'm trying to dink it tip down, that's not really gonna work so well either. So we need to understand kind of how the physics of how the body naturally works to create dinks, because staying relaxed and putting yourself in natural, relaxed body positions when you're hitting is super important. Okay, so let's talk quickly about advantages and disadvantages of each style. Okay, so first we're gonna talk about the slice dink. With a slice dink, you're gonna get a little bit of underspin. The advantage of that is when that ball bounces on your opponent's side, it's gonna tend to skid a little bit more and stay a little bit lower, which is good. Another advantage is, like we talked about, as you're extended out, it's gonna be a little bit easier to reach, open that paddle face, and still kind of use that slice dink to help control the ball. The last one is the slice dink is a little more natural when we wanna hit the ball cross court, okay? So if I've got a ball out here and I wanna take it back cross court, that motion to hit it back across my body is a little more natural than if I were gonna try to do that with a tip down dink. Okay, so now what are the disadvantages? First, taking the ball inside out with this style is a little bit trickier. Doing that is a little bit more difficult than if I were to use my tip down style. Second, and this just may be personal to me, but I feel like it's harder to hit off of a half volley. So if that ball is coming in and bouncing, because I'm kind of a little finicky with it, with opening the face, sometimes that half volley will tend to pop up. I personally feel more comfortable taking half volleys with a more tip down style. And then the third disadvantage, and maybe the most important one, is it's difficult to create any sort of deception from this style of dink. So if I'm going to hit a shot and you see my paddle like this, I basically have to dink that ball. There's no way I can speed that up. There's no way I can really do anything different than to just dink from that position. So once you see someone extend outside their body, open their paddle face with their wrist up, there's not a whole lot they can do in terms of speeding up or power or maneuvering the ball around. Okay, so now let's talk advantages and disadvantages of the tip down dink, okay? So we're gonna go advantages first. So first, I feel like from a tip down dink, you can move the ball to different spots better. So again, this just may be me personally, but when I'm in this position, I feel like I have lots of options with where I could take the ball, versus here, usually it's a little bit trickier to maneuver the ball to all the different spots of the court. So I feel like I have a little more flexibility when I'm in that tip down position. So the second advantage of the tip down position is you can create deception. From this paddle position, we can speed the ball up. We can go inside out. We can do some different things with topspin. If you see me drop that paddle, I could re-dink it, I could speed it up. So that creates a lot of deception and creates a lot of kind of uneasiness in your opponent when they see that paddle tip drop. The third advantage that I personally notice is I feel like I'm a little bit more relaxed when I'm dinking tip down. sometimes when we're in this position and that wrist is up, we're gripping the paddle tight because we're trying to create that kind of wrist position. Things can tense up a little bit, and sometimes I'll even pop the ball up in that situation. Versus when I'm here, I just feel that paddle almost hanging below my hand, and it feels very relaxed to me. The fourth one, I mentioned this before, but I feel way better resetting off of a tip down position or taking that ball off of a half volley. So a lot of times if I'm in transition area or I'm deciding to take that ball right off the bounce, I'll work really hard to get the tip of the paddle down because I feel like I can soften the ball a lot better from that position. And then the last one, which is really massive, is from a tip down position, we can learn to create a topspin roll dink, okay? And this is gonna be huge for applying more pressure to our opponents. Because if you can get some topspin on that dink, that means you can move it a little bit quicker through the court. You can start to move the ball around, move your opponents around more, and apply more pressure, which will hopefully create more pop-ups. So last, a couple disadvantages of hitting from a tip down position. Number one, obviously it's tough to hit that way if you're extended away from your body. And then second is it's a little bit trickier to hit a tip down dink and pull it back across your body cross court, okay? That is the one shot that if I'm in a tip down position, to go back across my body is a little bit of an awkward feel. Okay, so you may have noticed in my list of advantages and disadvantages that it seems like the tip down style has more advantages and more upside. And I do think this is true. So how do we decide then in game which way we're gonna hit the ball? So sometimes it's decided for me, but I can have an impact on it as well. So here's an example. If a ball is coming and I have to reach out to the side for it, I could just stay there, reach out, and hit that more slice dink style. I could also be very proactive, move my feet to get my body behind the ball, and now I can put myself in more of a tip down position, give myself more options, okay? So my approach is, as much as possible, I'm trying to move my body to get myself behind the ball or aligned with the ball, because that's gonna give me more options and give me that style of dink that I prefer and I'm a little more comfortable with. Now, sometimes people hit shots that are just too good, and I've gotta then kind of reach out for it and neutralize it or use that slice dink. But when possible, try to find the shot that you're comfortable with. That's all I got for you today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to grab your screenshot so next time you hit the court, you have all of this information right at your fingertips.